Hi, I am Caitlin, one half of Two Chapters Apart. I am here with Christine, the other half of Two Chapters Apart, as well as our dear friend Caleb of Caleb Curated. And if you can't tell, this is the first time that we have ever been live. And so we don't know what we're doing. However, we do know that we want to talk about our hot takes about romance, the genre.
Yes, we are excited to dive into this topic because we all have a lot of thoughts about it. And I think we have a varied assortment here of like levels of, what's the word? Not knowledge, but like time spent with romance.
That's
So,
true. Levels of experience, as they say.
oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna then toss over to you, Caitlin, to kick us off, like where you got started in romance, because you were the first of the three of us to really like dive into the genre.
Yes. So I was the first of the three of us to dive into the genre. I have read romance since I was in high school, but did not become an avid romance, like diehard girly until the last couple of years. And it was because of a colleague at work. So I had a colleague who'd read an Alexandra Vasti book actually and was like, oh my
Oh.
gosh, you should read this book. And in fact, not only should you read this book, we should get other people at work to read this book and we should start a book club. I'm all about community. And so I was like, yes, okay, we're going to make something official. I'm all about this. So we started our smutty book club and it was
And I
me
love
and
this started at a workplace.
yes, it was me and a bunch of my colleagues. So this started at a workplace. It's fine. And we read Alexandra Vasti, which is where my love of Alexandra Vasti comes from. But through that experience, I found such community with this group of women, and they are some of my closest friends now in Houston. And really, once you get into the genre, it's addicting. You can't stop. It's so joyful that
Mm.
I, it's escapism. I think in its purest form.
Yeah, and I think for me, I had really been indoctrinated by the idea that like romance wasn't a serious genre, or like no, look, I'm being
Indoctrinated
honest
is
here.
the right word.
Yeah, no, and it's
Yeah.
true, and like that's part of why we're talking about this, because you see so much of that kind of um discourse going on right now, even as romance has like grown to new heights of popularity. There's a lot of backlash, especially from men who are not from you, Caleb, but who try to kind of degrade its importance as a genre. And so it was thanks to Caitlin who really kind of pushed me to read romance for the first time in the past few years. And I totally understand what you're talking about in terms of like the joy that's there that feels so lacking sometimes in our lives nowadays, that like this ability to kind of escape into this world and know that there's going to be a happy ending, because um as Caitlin told me, there has to be a happy ending in romance novels, which I kind of love. And I'm used to reading really, really dark genres and like thriller, mystery, horror. So it's nice to get a break from that. And I'm trying to think of I mean, I don't know if it's not like the first romance book I've ever read in my life, but reading Alexandra Vasti's Ladies in Hating was like one of the first ones I read, at least in the past, 5 years or whatever. And oh my gosh, just love it. Love it so much. So it's
It's
really
the
set me on the
longing, it's the yearning. Oh, it's so good, it gives you the tingles.
it does. It does. And like, yeah, I mean, that book in particular is just like so much fun and I love it. But before we dive into specific books, so obviously like my entrance into the genre was thanks to Caitlin. And now Caleb, how did you find yourself in this genre?
I found myself excuse me. First of all, thank y'all for having me. Uh, sorry. I found myself in this genre because, and I've talked about this before, my sister has been really into like romance stuff for a while. And a few years ago, and like probably even longer than that, but a few years ago, I noticed that every time I got into the car with her, she was listening to a romance book. And honestly, I was just like, let me turn up my AirPods and listen to anything else. And then every once in a while, like we'd be in the car and I would like hear some of it. I'd be like, you know what? these parts I can be okay with, and blah blah blah. And so last year we went to the Printers Row Lit Fest together, and she like as soon as he walked in, she beeline to the steamy lit like book section, and I was just by myself for like 30 minutes walking around, and then she found me, and she was like, "Oh, I saw this author, and I'm waiting for this part, and we're gonna stick around and do this later." And so as we went around to other bookstores that were set up there, I um I actually picked up a couple books while I was there. The first book that I picked up was recommended because my sister
Do you have a show and tell, Caleb?
and listen, I love a show and tell. I love a show and tell.
I literally thought right before I sat down for this, I was like, should I do a show and tell? But I'm glad you came in.
Yours truly by Abby Jimenez, and the bookstore owner and my sister are both like, well, if you watch Grey's Anatomy, and my sister told this person that I watched Grey's Anatomy, because I was just like, hey, why do you like those books so much? And she thought I was playing around, and obviously I wasn't. I took a genuine interest in her life. Um, and they were both like, if you like that, you'll really like this series by Abby Jimenez. And so they suggested Just for the Summer. And because the steamy lit book place they had special editions, I got a hardback book of like yours truly, and I remember, I think, texting probably both of you about this. I know at least Caitlin, because Caitlin responded back and was like, yep, that's the feeling you get. Where I was just like, yo, I'm kind of excited for what's happening for these people in these books. And it was like, honestly, kind of weird because I hadn't like really expected that to be the case. But it was great. And I kept reading more books. And it was actually a really good way for me to just get back into reading in general overall, because as you both have pointed out, um, these generally have a happy ending. It doesn't necessarily mean that the couple at the center of the book will get together. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything will be fully resolved, but it kind of does mean that you'll end in a better place than where you found the characters at the beginning. So I really like and enjoy them. And I have other books that um, I've gotten into, and the latest one that I literally just finished before we got on here to talk about too. So yeah, I'll stop there.
I
Cool.
think that you touched on something that I really love about romance, and it's that you get really invested in like good things happening to people. And I think that is the piece of romance that is one of the most underrated pieces, is the joy that it brings. Like if you're a part of any sort of like romance book circle, there are certain phrases that you just come to know. And so like kicking my feet or something like that. And it's this idea that you were just so excited for this couple, or something so cute or so flirtatious happens that you just kind of squeal to yourself and you giggle, and I don't know, you just kick your feet a little bit. And it's something that I have actually experienced when reading a book. And if a book can elicit a joyful reaction like that, that's a book that I want to read.
Well, and I think you talking about this is the kind of thing that like got you back into reading. I think that's really important too, because I think so many times people like ask me like, oh, like how, like either why do I read or how do you read so much of that kind of thing? And it's like I'm not sitting down reading textbooks, and no shade to people who do love knowledge. But the idea that like reading doesn't have to be this like um doesn't have to feel like you're sitting in a classroom. Again, nothing against classrooms. How am I trying to say this? I'm trying to say that like the idea is it can just be really fun and joyful, and it doesn't have to be like a master course in like Shakespeare or something or whatever. Like it or again, a science textbook. It can be something that's just really fun. And I think so many people place all these kind of like requirements on what their reading has to look like. And I think romance can be a good way to kind of break free of some of those requirements and realize how fun it can just be, like just truly, truly genuinely fun.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, for me, to your point, I read, and I still do read like a bunch of stuff that's like kind of heavy for like my real life work and other stuff. And in some ways, like my viewing habits like to reflect this too, where I don't want to like deal with stuff that like is all the time like super heavy and like not going to have some type of like restoration at the end of it. And like and part of the reason I really got into these and the worlds that are created around like some of the series around this is that like I like the idea of like people figuring out like how their life works and people like reflecting on their lives. And also like I think a lot of time in romance books, the ones that I really like most are not just about like one singular relationship between like a romantic partner and another romantic partner. It's really about actually like how are we creating a community, um and how are we like being better people to a bunch of folks around them. Like the Part of Your World series, which I showed the 2 books of, what I really like, what got me to read it backwards was the same thing that got me to like watch Grey's Anatomy backwards back when I was like whatever age and I started watching Grey's Anatomy, which is like, oh, like how did these people end up here? And if there's this connection, I want to see like how that connection built.
So I like what I hear is you're touching on that. Like it is a lot of fun and joy, but like it can also have that depth about like people exploring their identities or building community or all the other things that we like love to see in these stories.
Well, and I think that that's a piece that's really important to talk about too is that yes, romance is really fun to read. And sometimes you want something light and you want something fun. But I think that there's also this idea out there that that is the only thing that romance is. And that's also not true. And I think that that's how we kind of fall into this trap of like, oh, a romance isn't intellectual or it doesn't fill this like deeper emotional need that literary fiction can fill. And I think that that one is not true, but I also think that too that that ends up like degrading the work and the intention behind the work. And romance is also a genre that is written predominantly by women and consumed predominantly by women. So I'm curious how much of like societal pressure like plays into how people interpret romance as a genre and how serious folks take it as a genre.
So, the interesting thing about that is like the best written male character that I've probably read, maybe ever, is like the male lead in Kennedy Ryan's Before I Let Go book. Like it was so good that like spoiler alert, even if it hadn't ended in a way that is like typical of a romance novel, it would have been still great to me because of the way that it explored like how so this is Before I Let Go is a story about a couple that was divorced, and that something happened that kind of led to their divorce, and they are still like co-owning a restaurant and are parents. And beautiful book, beautiful cover. Love this book, obviously show and tell. Um, and one of my favorite things about the book is that it explores this idea of this of the male lead, like how he shows up as a father, as a friend, all this other stuff, and how the way that he shows up in his life impacts his son. And I don't think that there's like a ton of books that give you the space to like think about people as a whole person, but also really get deep into their head and kind of know that it's going to be all right at the end. Like the book is like super heavy, but because of the genre that it's in, I generally knew, all right. And that was the thing that my sister said to me as I got this book, was she was like, because I looked at it and I was like, before I let go, all right, like, what are we letting go of? And am I am I going to be okay at the end of this? Because I don't need the unhappy tears at the end of this. And she was like, it'll be fine. But you just need to understand that a lot of stuff happens in the book. Um, and true enough, it does. I will also say the way Kennedy Ryan writes certain scenes is like Shonda Rhimes in her prime. Honestly, maybe a little bit beyond Shonda Rhimes in that early Grays and Scandals, but y'all can just read it for yourselves. And I'm saying y'all because I'm pointing at the both of you for not having read this yet. Read it, get on it.
Okay, but to be totally honest, I'm gonna admit I did buy it to read it, but I had no idea what it was about, and I hadn't looked at the back cover, and you just really sold me on the book, just knowing what it was about. I had no idea what it was
Come
about.
on, sales. Come on,
Right?
sales.
Yeah.
Oh, I know I need to read this, Caleb. You have been saying this. My friend Katya has been saying this. And so this is the year. I'm gonna read it.
Can I shill for the series real quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
The series is great. The series has so many great, fun, loving characters. It's also to your point about the group that you and your coworkers started. Um, I would maybe not be reading some of these passages aloud. Um,
They don't.
Reading them aloud is the fun part.
I was just also though. Do you think at book club? Do you think the book club reads the whole book together, like
no,
out loud as story time?
okay. First of all, don't get on me because maybe I don't have a book club right now. Uh, but second, what I'm saying is that like these were the parts when I'd be riding around my sister that I would be like, okay, headphones in. But but I will say that like the series has so much depth to it. Like it goes through a bunch of stuff that is like real life, real people issues that often don't really get talked about from multiple perspectives. And so having the like genre of romance kind of like run through it allows you to explore a bunch of different stuff. Like I will be honest, like the first time I read Before I Let Go, I was not entirely sure how it would end and how it would make me happy if there was like a resolution to the relationship.
Mhm.
And it did so in a really, really good way that is also like a healing way and a reflective way for people to think about like how do you show up in your own like relationships, friendships, whatever they might be.
Mm.
Okay, so since Caleb got his chance to talk about his favorite romance book slash series, Caitlin, do you want to do the same?
I mean, yeah, y'all know that I'm obsessed with Alexander Vassey's Belvoir Library series. And so it is a historical romance series. It's a trilogy, and it focuses on this group of women who all have some connection to this library that has informative, spicy books for the women of the tone to check out and read. I know. It's scandalous and fabulous. And what I love so much about all of the characters in the series is that all of the women are one, so interesting and so smart. Two, they know what they want. And then three, all of their men adore them. And I love that for them. But it's a really, really fun series. She actually has a new series that she just started that's going to come out in June. Christine and I both got like an early release copy through NetGalley, and so we were able to read that, and it's called Scandal of the Summer.
Okay,
And
exclusive.
Don't
it
give away too much now.
I'm not giving away too much, just know that there are pirates.
Yeah. It's I mean, I'll just second Alexandra Vasty's writing, but also like Scandal of the Summer is excellent. I still like Ladies in Hating just a little bit better, but like Scandal of the Summer really is an excellent read. Very excited about that. I'll throw one out there that I was thinking about, like ones that have really stuck with me. And this is a really like genre mashup between sci-fi and romance. It's called Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon. And the idea is that these two women are texting and they like decide they're gonna meet up, and what they find out is they're like on different timelines. So like they are flirting, but they can not figure out how to meet up because they're like on different timelines in the same universe in the same place. Um
Okay.
it is so good. It's like super flirty and spicy, but has again this depth. The yearning is strong because clearly they're on two different timelines.
Oh, I love yearning. Yearning is the best part.
It's yeah, it's a lot of yearning. So highly recommend that as one. If you're looking especially for some sapphic romance, it's excellent. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, I just got through with Happy Place. Um and I will say Yearning is not my favorite. I would rather these people just like talk and like use their words earlier, but you know, if they got to sit up here and yarn for 200 pages, cool.
So I mean, I feel like similarly related is the miscommunication trope. like, it's different, obviously, yearning and miscommunication, but that is a big trope in romance about miscommunication, and I, like, was recently just reading an interview with some romance author who was like, "I hate the miscommunication trope," and so I made sure all my characters communicate clearly. So I'm curious, like, do y'all have any, like, tropes you either really hate or, like, love in romance?
I hate the miscommunication trope. And I think that yearning and the miscommunication trope are two like very, very different things. There can be lots of reasons why somebody is yearning for someone that they cannot necessarily have yet. It doesn't have to do with miscommunication.
That's fair. Yeah.
I do not like a miscommunication trope.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, I don't know. I mean, obviously miscommunication in real life and in the books. I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
But I think I have been lucky enough. There's only been one book that I've like actually like hated reading. Um, and that was because even the like parts of yearning that it was trying to do, I was just like, I don't get why these people are yearning for each other. Like there's nothing there.
Mm.
So
Care to
I think
share?
for me,
No.
huh?
Nope.
What's that?
I said, care to share
Care to share what? The
the
book?
title of the book.
I probably shouldn't, but
Okay.
but
Text me.
I will say, that book almost got me to retire from reading for a little bit. Because I was just like, this is taking too long. And then I had to read something to get me out of it.
I
Uh,
mean, the well-known book slump, that's not just,
Yeah.
the romance genre. Any reader knows that sometimes we hit book slumps, and sometimes we need a really good book like a Vasti or Candy Ryan novel to get us out of it.
but I was on a heater. I was on a heater, and that book was the bane of my existence. Like, I cannot explain. If I s- Honestly, if I see that book around my house, it's up. Like, but I do think that if a book is well read, all of the tropes don't really feel that tropey. It kind of well written. It feels a little bit more just like real life. Um, which sometimes in real life people don't communicate or people don't know that words mean things, and
I will say I do like a friends to lovers trope or like a, what's the term for like, um, I guess it doesn't debate. Like, what happens in Funny Story? Like, a kind of like, I mean, I guess that's sort of friends, but more like,
Forced
like a
proximity.
oh,
forced
oh, I know what you
proximity. There we go.
forced proximity. What's the other one where sorry, I just got way too excited. The other one where you have to fake a relationship.
Fake dating.
Fake
Yeah.
dating.
The fake dating one is like kind of wild to me because I'm like, yo, this is not the olden times. You can't really, why are you faking a relationship? You can
Yeah.
just be single. Tell these parents of yours to back off.
Fair, fair. But I find it a lot of fun. All three of those things: friends to lovers, forced proximity, and fake dating.
I'm thinking about it. Outside of miscommunication, I don't think there's too many things that I'm like, nah, I really don't like that. I like a friends to lovers. I like an enemies to lovers.
Ooh.
That's fun.
Mm.
Mm.
Strangers to lovers. I'm like, whatever.
You mean
Okay.
like real life?
Yeah. I'm not reading romance for real life. Like I don't want to read we met on Hinge. We fell in love. We're still in love.
See, you talking, but that book might be a banger and might bring back the dating apps because
It might be a banger.
all right, well, that's obviously not what I meant. I'm trying to keep the FCC off of y'all.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Speaking of funny story, I know all three of us have read it,
Yeah.
which is one of the shared romance books that we've all read. Um, like I've clearly said, I liked the tropes in it. Found it really fun to read. The only other Emily Henry book I've read is Great Big Beautiful Life, which is her newest one, which was like super controversial, I feel like, when it came out. Like people really didn't like it. I thought it was a great time, and it had like a kind of mystery element, so maybe that's why I liked it. It was a good like kind of one for me, but I'm excited to read more from her now because I did like both of those books, and Happy Places on my shelf, so I guess. Or Beach Read. I've heard Beach Read's really great too. Or Book People. I don't know. There's lots.
I'm trying to decide. I think I might have a couple more around. I gotta check and see. But I really like Funny Story. I actually the parts that I didn't like in that book were mostly just because I was like, y'all are in such a small apartment. Can you not talk about this? But but we press on and we move forward anyway. Um, I read People We Met on Vacation. I like that book a lot more. The Read the book and you find the movie to be like kind of ridiculous, but I mean I assume it would be fine if you never read the book. The book has a lot more like going on with it and a
Mm.
lot more depth.
Mm.
And then I just finished Happy Place earlier today, and maybe I have Beach Read. I'm not entirely sure.
I have several of her books on my shelf. The only one that I've read was Funny Story, which I thoroughly enjoyed that book. I thought it was a blast. I could not put it down. It's one of those that like once I picked it up, I had to finish it. I didn't put it down.
Yeah.
Did you like that they had library representation in that book?
Uh Obviously. Are you kidding? Yes.
I love
Well, and
that.
then also so Christine and I this past summer went to Michigan. This was
Hmm.
before I had read the book, not knowing that the town that we were in Michigan is the setting of Funny Story. And the scene when they're at the lavender farm, we've been there. We have
We went
been to the
before?
actual lavender farm that inspired that scene.
I guess you could say it was a funny story.
I, yes, yes, you could. You could
Y'all
say that.
are on one tonight. That's a great idea for like a series, a trip for us. Go to places where romance books were inspired by.
Oh, that would be fun.
Be a lot of trips to Brooklyn.
I mean, hey, I don't hate it. I really want to go to is it the Ripped Bodice that's in Brooklyn? There's a romance bookstore in Brooklyn.
Mm. I guess I have this kind of related question about Funny Story and Emily Henry. So I talked about how I got into the romance genre and then also into Kennedy Ryan, both from my sister. I got into Emily Henry because of one of my coworkers. How did you get into like your favorite or one of your favorite um art authors?
I mean, from
So,
Caitlin for
yeah,
Al
you go.
for Alexandra Vasti, it was because of Caitlin. The one I mentioned, the Cosmic Love, Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon, I picked up in a queer bookstore in Philadelphia. I think that was recommended by it. Had I think just came out, and the bookseller there recommended it. And I love a good bookseller recommendation. So go to your local indie bookstores. And speaking of, tomorrow is National Black Bookstore Day, so everybody should be going to their local Black-owned indie bookstore to pick up maybe some Candy Ryan.
Or others. What's the other book that I have? I think I got Sweet Heat from one of my favorite local black-owned bookstores, Call and
Oh,
Response.
I have that
Sweet
one, so
Heat
maybe
is so good. But you have to read Honey and Spice. You need to, well, I guess you don't have to, but I would read Honey and Spice first, and then I would read Sweet Heat.
I have a
I
Honey and
think I
Spice.
have both.
Okay, let's do
Think
a
I have both.
buddy read
All
for
right. Yay! Love a buddy read.
They're
okay.
they're both really, really good, and it follows the same couple, and the second book is like a second chance romance book. And so you really get to see how these characters evolve and mature as they have grown up. And I think that that was a really, really interesting way to do a duology. Because I feel like often when there's a duology or when there's a series in romance, you're not necessarily following the same couple. It's usually focusing on a new couple within the world that was established with the first couple in the first book. But this is a direct continuation of that couple's story in a way that feels really real. Um, and I thoroughly enjoyed both of those books.
Nice. Okay, Caitlin, sorry I cut you off earlier about answering Caleb's question.
Well, I mean, I came to know Alexandra Vasti through one of the women from my smutty book club. Um, and it was so funny because when she introduced us to her, she actually prepared an entire PowerPoint so that we could understand all of the language that we would need to know when we're reading like Regency era romance. So like we
Mm.
needed to know what like a blue stocking was, which is like a woman who is older who is not married. So she gave us like this person's also an AP Lit teacher. And so she was teaching us all the language we would need to know for this Regency romance genre as if she were teaching us about, Pride and Prejudice. So,
Okay, I need this PowerPoint though, because
okay, I'll have to get it from her and send it to
I
you.
don't think I even knew what a blue stocking was, and I've read a lot now. There we go. All right, any final thoughts on romance?
I will just say that for the men out there, or anybody who is like generally skeptical about reading a romance novel, it's like the general rule is you probably have read the wrong book instead of it just being the wrong genre. Like as y'all both know, I'm like a little bit of a scaredy cat, so I'm putting off reading the horror books that have been recommended to me by great people. But it won't be because they're bad books. Everybody who I've read some of these books from has said like they'll be great. And so I think one thing to think about is that like reading these is an opportunity to like self-reflect and like read something like really good that it helps open up your world to the possibility of happy endings.
I don't know. That's so sweet.
That was so sweet.
Yeah.
I was just going to tell people to get over themselves and have fun and read a romance book.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. That was such a happy ending.
Yours truly, Caleb. Curated.
Oh god, we all have to stop. All right, so a reminder, you can follow our lovely friend Caleb on Instagram or TikTok at Caleb Curated.
That is it at Caleb Curated.
Great. And stay tuned for some exciting announcements from us coming up about some summer plans. Bye.